Welcome to part 2 of our Great American Bash extravaganza from Baltimore, Maryland. On the DDT archives, I am the Maverick, Greg Lotta, and with me as always is my partner, the courageous one, Christopher Lotta. And on last week's show, we broke down 1988's Great American Bash, which was the first one on pay-per-view for Jim Crockett Promotions here in Baltimore. And the 2000 event was the last one. These are the dog days of WCW. So obviously this event is not easy to watch. And you see a lot of guys, a lot of big names that were all over this card. And it was a tough time to be a WCW fan, especially since you're only about 3-4 years removed from their heyday. So what are some of your thoughts about the demise of WCW at this point? As we are sitting here, it's less than a year the company would fold.
Sitting back and watching this card take place, it was very easy to understand how WCW folds. The misuse of talent, the overabundance of stipulated matches, and just the sheer trying too hard with some of the characters just set the stage for the eventual demise. You have quality workers in bad matches. You have
bad gimmicks in bad stables. It's sprinkled all over this joint.
And then you have people that are just thrown into situations that they can't possibly succeed in. Talking about David Flair. You know, it's hard enough to be compared to your father, but then to have to dye your hair bleach blonde and get in the ring and battle him, just there's no way you can win. Even if you put on a perfect match, he's still not his dad. Nor should he try to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's a hard watch, but it's something that if you want to look, what's important about historically with wrestling is that we explore sometimes on this show. It's that not everything's good, and it's important that we look back at some of the bad, maybe so we don't repeat the mistakes that we made in the past, but also the fall of WCW is such an important moment, and it changed everything. It changed the company now, where you don't have that number one top flight rival that you're competing against company wise. And now it's only the WWE at the top. And part of the reason WCW could not compete with WWE, it wasn't for lack of talent. Well, maybe it was to a point, but it was just the reliance on the old guard still, not developing their new talent, and crappy storytelling. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what the Great American Bash 2000 was. It took place on June 11th in front of a half-full crowd, because 1988's the attendance was 13,000. This attendance was 7,031. And Great American Bash was in Baltimore every year, and every year they did great numbers. It's just hard to see. There it is right there. That's the most telling stat about this is the attendance. On the call, you have probably one of the worst announced teams ever created, which was one of the reasons why I kind of stopped watching WCW towards the end, because I just couldn't stand. Outside of Tony Schiavone, who I adore, there's Scott Hudson and Mark Madden sitting next to him. And it's just, once again, a hard listen, because these guys are not traditional wrestling announcers. Scott Hudson, maybe, but Mark Madden's a sports talk radio host. He's no business being on a panel calling matches for WCW. I don't care how big of a fan he was or where he's from. He's just not a good announcer at all, especially when he's trying to play the over-the-top heel. So, any other thoughts or points you want to make before we get started on this card, man?
I would like to shout out to everyone that now would be a great opportunity not to turn on the WWE Network and follow along with the show. we took this one for you. And unless you are a fan of Wrestle crap, and some of you might be, and if you are, this is the pure Wrestle crap that you would love to shit on.
Oh, it's so bad. If you ever want to... Here, the only thing I'll suggest, if you ever feel yourself saying, hey, Raw sucked tonight, or SmackDown sucked tonight, yeah, go watch Great American Bash 2000, and you'll see what actually sucks.
Although, I'm going to say this. This is something that I feel the WWE needs to be careful of. Because there are times they get dangerously close to pulling this crap.
It's true.
And this should be the opportunity to reminisce and realize that they need to not allow it to get this far. Because otherwise we're going to be in a situation where the 2017 product could very easily become Wrestle crap. Because it's not about having big names.
Yeah, it's come close too.
WCW has the biggest names in professional wrestling at this time. And they still can't pull it off. So don't think that WWE is immune to that in 2017.
Yeah. But we also have to remember, a lot of those big names were two of them were extremely past their prime. Flair had some good years later on, and so did Sting, but Hogan he's still Hogan. And you gotta look at it that way. They had a lot of these older guys that, they had a little bit of tread left on the tires, but they weren't what they used to be, even 4 years before that.
Yeah, but time out. Look at their ages. They're the same age as the top guys now.
Mm-hmm.
They're the exact same ages.
All right. Well, the first match of the night kicks it off. It's a cruiserweight title match, which saw Lieutenant Loco, a.k.a. Chavo Guerrero, of the Misfits in action, take on Disco Inferno, but he dropped the Inferno because he was trying to be hip and cool and join the Filthy Animals. Chavo would retain the cruiserweight title in just under 5 minutes. This was another time where we're a little bit stable happy in WCW. So, the Misfits in action with General U.G. Rection, Major Stash, Major Guns, Corporal Cajun, G.I. Bro, who we would see later on in the night. How do they feel? Why are there so many stables, and why are there so many? When you put just the most random mid-card guys in a stable, what is that supposed to create?
Why are there so many stables? Well, let's be honest, because WWF had stables, so this is their answer to the DOA, the corporation, the ministry.
No.
So, this is what they do. But I'm going to throw a curveball at you right now.
Okay.
You have a choice. You can take Kerwin White or Lieutenant Loco. Who do you pick?
Lieutenant Loco.
Why?
Because that is not as bad a gimmick as Kerwin White was.
They're both really bad.
Did you notice the choice of words I used? I said it's not as bad.
The correct answer is cancel them both.
Okay, that's fine. The correct answer is Chavo Guerrero.
Yes.
with the horse on a stick that is riding around.
What was the pony's name?
Oh, I forget. I can't.
Tweet us the name because we forget it.
The pony. I promise I won't look it up until somebody tweets us the name of Chavo Guerrero's pony. So now on the other side you have the Filthy Animals, which if you run down outside of maybe Disco Inferno, who I always liked, I never thought he was that terrible. in the ring. He had some okay matches. Don't ask me to name one. But when you roll down the roster of the Filthy Animals, like, there's a lot of good names and solid hands that are in that stable, and Juventud Guerrera, and of course Rey Mysterio is one of my favorites ever. Conan, who's a very underrated talent. So, I mean, did that not work? Because it was just trying to be another. I hate to use the word like thug stable, like the NWO, where it was just. It was just the time where like there was no direction for anything.
It didn't work because, like everything else in WCW in 2000, it's forced.
Yeah.
It's forced. I mean, you have really talented cruiserweights mixed in with average at best, middle of the road guys, and then you have Conan, who's just great on the mic. He's absolutely phenomenal on the mic. But at the same time, you're looking at a stable full of small guys.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I mean, even looking at them compared to the Misfits in action, they're tiny. Yeah. And if it's faction versus faction, you can't even go, well, it's the numbers game. The numbers game doesn't exist when it's size versus size.
And you got guys like Umaris and Booker T and all those guys in the MIA. Yeah, no, absolutely, great point there. This is hard to do because I just feel like we're giving like a eulogy to something we loved and guys we loved, and it's like it's depressing.
I didn't love Huge Erection. You did, but I didn't.
We all have our skeletons in the closet. Our next match of the night was for the number one contendership for Sean Stasiak and Chuck Palumbo's tag titles. What was their name? You just told me. I forgot.
Perfect Event.
The perfect. What does that mean?
I don't know, but it sounds like a Kurt Hennig ripoff somewhere.
Well, he was like part of it because Sean Stasiak was Perfect Sean. Get it?
Yeah.
Oof.
Unfortunately, I do.
So this match saw Chronic, team made up of Brian Adams and Brian Clark, defeat the Mamalukes, which was Johnny the Bull and Big Vito, after they hit their finishing move, the High Times, on Johnny the Bull. Now, I know you're going to crap all over me about this, but I never hated the Chronic tag team. I like big guy wrestling on occasion. I thought those guys were. What does that mean?
You like big guy wrestling?
Yeah. We should start a promotion. This is big guy wrestling. Cruiserweights, be gone. Get out of here. Your tiny asses.
Big guy wrestling.
Stop saying erections.
After a huge erection.
We're not making this. Listen, man.
Oh boy,
this homoerotic.
You already did, buddy.
Sorry. Whatever. So I liked Brian Adams and Brian Clark here. I liked, Crush and Adam Bomb and some other guy in Wrath or whatever he was.
Mortis.
No, that was
Wrath.
Canyon.
He's Wrath.
All right.
Oh boy.
So why don't you destroy me for liking Chronic and Big Guy Wrestling?
I think the name, in thinking about it, the name Chronic was really just kind of telling you that in order to truly enjoy their matches, you had to hit the Chronic.
Or it showed you what the creative staff was on.
I don't know what you're thinking there, pal, but you can see the downfall of WCW in this tag team match. In the ring are combined 4-time tag team champions. 2 and 2. Both groups were 2-time tag team champions. Ooh. And right there, just think about all the big names that never wore the tag titles. And then you have Chronic and the Mamalukes as a combined 4-time tag team champions.
Oh, that is a rough but really, really eye-opening statistic right there, my friend.
The
Woof.
One thing I will say about this match is that at least they looked like wrestlers. Chronic looked like a legitimate tag team. And then to steal the quote off the t-shirt that I ordered from BrucePritchard.com, and then the bell rang.
Yeah. That goes for both of these guys, both of these teams as well. I mean, I found it interesting that they were holding the hardcore title too. Johnny the Bull and Vito were sharing.
He didn't even know to take it off.
That was part of the deal. But I mean, this match was pretty rough to watch. I still don't understand the Chronic gimmick because they just didn't.
I just told you. I described it perfectly. Yeah. You had to be high to enjoy it.
Fair enough. So Chronic would go on to win in just over 9 minutes and become the number one contenders for the tag titles. We would see the tag team champions later on, but not in tag team action. So in between this match and the next, we had a backstage interview with Diamond Dallas Page. He is in a divorce angle right now with his former wife, Kimberly, as she has joined Eric Bischoff in the New Blood. And this is setting up his ambulance match with Mike Awesome. And I'm going to stress ambulance match because nobody else could understand or say this word.
So it's not ambulance?
It's not ambulance.
Are you sure it's not ambulance?
I'm positive it's not ambulance. So this match between DDP and Mike Awesome went just over 9 minutes, and it saw Mike Awesome win by because the whole angle was that Mike Awesome had injured Kanyon. Kanyon and DDP were best friends from New Jersey, and they would he was in they wheeled him out in his wheelchair, and he had a neck halo on and everything. And when they're trying to get out of the match, Kanyon stands up as he's magically healed and hits a diamond cutter off the stage, which wasn't a bad spot, by the way. Probably one of the better spots in this match. So he hits DDP with the diamond cutter off the stage. They throw him in the ambulance and win. Couple of points on this match I wanted to make. Your thoughts on Mike Awesome as a whole, the late Mike Awesome?
Well, at least it's not the fat chick chaser gimmick.
Oh, yeah, that's not a good one.
Or the 70s gimmick.
I thought that was the same thing.
It might be, but it's awful.
Yeah.
What's Mike Awesome's claim to fame? To be the WCW guy who lost the ECW title to Taz, who's a WWF guy?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, Mike Awesome, again, looks like a wrestler, but that's about as far as I can go with anything nice to say about Mike Awesome. I just didn't... Look, he's believable, but I didn't enjoy his work.
Okay, the other guy I want to talk to you about is Chris Kanyon. Another since past sad story of wrestling, or another wrestling tragedy. That was Chris Kanyon. He was another guy that was like okay in the ring. I think his lisp hurt him on the mic a little bit, but I think kind of incorporated that into his character. But I mean, did you ever were a fan of Kanyon's, whether he was Mortis or anything like that?
I wasn't a fan of him, but I don't really think there was ever a point where you were supposed to be a fan of him.
That's true.
I don't have tremendous dislike for him, if that means anything. He put on decent matches, but again, I think that was the flaw with WCW is he goes from this Mortis character who is straight out of a video game. I mean, he's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely he becomes a human being. And
yeah,
at that point, by the time Kanyon became Kanyon, it was too little too late. And he never really gets over the way he could. I would have liked to have seen a DDP Kanyon tag team. I think that could have been workable.
Weren't they in that stable with Bam Bam?
They were the Jersey Triad,
yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen them actually be a legitimate tag team. Like, again, enough with the stables.
Yeah, I think they would have complemented each other well.
You know, it's just... I think that would have been a good look, a good team. It would have been solid. I would have liked it. Rather than what we wound up getting.
I think my favorite moment of this match, just as we move right along on the card, is when DDP's wife, Kimberly, former Nitro girl, came out and she hit him with the steel pipe. And the steel pipe wiggled. Like
your steel pipe doesn't wiggle?
You stop it. God, I freaking hate you.
You set yourself up, brother.
You just knock him down, don't you?
I have to. It's my job.
All right. So continuing this Extreme Rules-esque card, we have another stipulation match. This one's a boot camp match. And it pits Sean Stasiak against, and I cringe every time they say this name because I'm such a huge fan of his and everything he's done. G.I. Bro, who is the Hall of Famer Booker T. And he was part of the Misfits in Action at this point, too. He would get the win just under 14 minutes, although Scott Hudson would tell us they've gone almost 20. And the match ended in 14 minutes.
I mean, listen, 14 minutes, almost 1,000 minutes. I mean, you're getting there eventually, right?
Yeah, I guess so. This one just hurt my heart just to see, Booker T in a match like this, in a boot camp match. The crowd's chanting boring throughout the whole thing. It's so hard to watch from a guy that was just such a storied and, very decorated career in both promotions and all over the place. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on this match if they're in this boot camp?
So if you had your choice of boot camp matches, would you go back to the one on Super Clash, or would you take this one? So De Beer Slaughter or G.I. Bro Sean Stasiak?
I don't want to pick.
No, in this case, it's gotta be Slaughter and De Beers.
Okay, that's fine. At least they tried.
So, my notes for this match simply say, why?
Yeah, why?
Why? So, a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
Do you like your meat with PMS?
No. I feel like I'm in a Senate hearing when you're asking me questions like that. I need a lawyer.
Sean Stasiak.
Meat.
Good old meat. Oh, boy. I'm trying to find one thing that's memorable about Sean Stasiak.
You just did.
And that's the only thing that comes to mind. Nothing to do with his work.
No.
Nothing. Just being a male subordinate.
I mean, the one thing I know about him now is that he's a very accomplished chiropractor, which is great. A lot of these guys, they fade off into obscurity, but he's, become a fake doctor, so which I think that's nice.
So he went from cracking backs to cracking backs. Interesting. Yeah. Sounds like something you'd be interested in.
Will you stop it? So the next match we would have another stipulation. How nice. Like we haven't had any of these all night.
Oh wait, this is the one. Can I?
Go ahead.
So now, ladies and gentlemen,
so loud.
We are going to take you to a table match. Only wait. Shane Douglas is in the middle of the ring, and he says you have to break 5 tables. But we come to find out...
There's only 4 tables around the ring?
There's only 4 tables around the ring. And that would be best of 9 if you have to break 5 tables. So no one really clued Shane Douglas in that WCW only had the money for 7 total. So immediately they changed the stipulation, and now it goes from 1 table to best of 9 to back to best of 5 tables. I'll let you pick it up from there.
Well, Shane Douglas would win, defeating The Wall, which was his opponent, which you left out.
Well, I mean, once they tore down Berlin, I kind of felt like The Wall was over.
This match went just over 8 minutes, which was 8 minutes too long. Interesting point of this match on the WWE Network, there's a lot of cursing in this event. And Shane Douglas had the first shit of the night, and the match to follow correlated with that term. You know what else pained me about this match? Yeah, they I get it, it's Shane Douglas in a tables match. Did you have to chant ECW? Because that just made me want to hurl.
Alright, so let's talk bright spot of the match.
Okay.
The Wall survived that spot.
How?
I don't know, because he took a really bad bump. He misjudged that completely.
The first 2 tables broke fine. The third one...
He was past it. He just kicked it and hoped. Otherwise, it would have been tied, and they would have been fucked.
I mean, that was a crazy spot. You know, Douglas had hit him with the brass knuckles. They're on top of a ladder, so the wall falls through 3 tables.
And the wall falls down.
The wall falls down. I mean, it was a crazy spot, but it still looked really shitty. Alright, so let's talk about... I know we may have mentioned him back on the DDT Origins in our last podcast show. Shane Douglas. Opinions about Shane Douglas and his career and his place in wrestling history.
A legend in his own mind. Overrated.
Yeah.
Very overrated. If he didn't talk himself up so much, I think I would feel very differently.
Okay.
But if you call yourself the franchise, then you better be the damn franchise. And he's not. You know, he comes out with franchise on his tights in WCW, and it's like, dude, you were big fish in a smaller pond. And even then, I could argue we're not the leader.
You got outworked pretty much by a lot of those guys in ECW.
And now you're in WCW, and you're crying about how Flair always did something to hold you back. Well, here's your put up or shut up time, and you didn't do much.
Yeah. So
no, I am not a Shane Douglas fan. I think he's incredibly overrated. I will say his mic skills when it's unedited are hilarious, but if you limit him, he's got nothing.
Yeah. I figured that's the direction you were going to go in on that one.
And now you tell me your favorite Wall promo.
I don't know. I feel like I'd get a better promo from the Wall that's to the left of us right now.
It's a very nice wall.
It's a great wall.
Wait, like in China?
No. Next match on the card is it's an asylum match, which I had never heard of before. So it's basically just a cage that's a cylinder. That's a smaller cage than a usual cage match. And it pitted Tank Abbott against Scott Steiner. And Steiner would win just under 4 minutes with the Steiner recliner. Gets Tank Abbott to tap out. But they randomly make this a triple threat match because his brother... handicap, excuse me. So handicap match when Rick Steiner comes out, who was working heel at the time. So Tank Abbott comes out with Rick Steiner. Scott Steiner comes out with Whores. So I think that was nice. And
Medeja And...
Whore.
Sure.
Oh.
I forget her name, so I was just hoping maybe you know it.
Whore 2.
Okay.
Alright. So, like, what the hell was this? What kind of, like... How are they supposed to have a match inside of a smaller cage than normal?
So, I have some really, really good notes for this match.
Really?
It starts with, why?
Hang on a second. Look at my notes. It says, what the F was this? Very similar notes.
So then my follow-up notes were, did anyone, including the announcers, know the rules?
No, and the best part was they kept contradicting each other, like saying, like, this is Scott Steiner's signature match, and he had never been in one before.
Were they inferring that Scott Steiner was insane?
Yes.
I mean, he is the big bad booty daddy. He was WCW's equivalent to the Tapped Out Network's legend.
Mm-hmm.
The big bad booty daddy.
Excellent comparison.
Except the legend's mic work is legendary. So
Scott Steiner's, to be fair.
It is legendary, just not in the way we would like to.
Okay, instead of watching this match, just go on YouTube, watch the 10 minutes of Scott Steiner promos, laugh your head off, and then we'll come back for the next match. Because this match was so quick and pointless, it's fine.
Your favorite Scott Steiner YouTube video?
I just mentioned it.
No. Do you prefer Scott Steiner math or Scott Steiner versus the English language?
I will go Scott Steiner math because I still don't get what he was talking about, and he makes fractions hard.
Well, when you go fractions and decimals at the exact same time, you lost me. But there is still a strong part of me that loves the big bad booty daddy. Probably because he has whores.
Yeah, those are nice whores. I'm still like kind of, I don't know what just talking about Scott Steiner. Like, I just don't know how I ever felt about him looking back. It's like, I don't know. Like, did he have some cool matches? Yeah. Was his gimmick kind of okay? It was kind of hilarious and fun to a point, but I mean, it's just he was too huge for his own good. I just felt like
all right, so here's where I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna go on a little Scott Steiner rant, and I'm gonna back Scott Steiner.
Okay.
All of the internet marks out there that are all about Will Ospreay or Ricochet or who the fuck is this A?
Yeah.
Scott Steiner was doing half of those moves before it was cool. He would do a standing Frankensteiner.
Yeah.
And the difference was, he wasn't 135 pounds. He was 260, 265. His athleticism was second to none. And yes, at one point, he just gets too big for his own good and may or may not have had tennis balls surgically implanted in his biceps. I mean, the man can put his arm out straight and still kiss his bicep. Which is hard considering he has no neck. But the fact is, if people want to get all hot and bothered about this independent scene, understand that there were guys in the early to mid 90s that were doing similar things that would set the towns on fire, but were bigger, stronger, and yes, dare I say, actually told a story in their matches. it doesn't come across in 2000 WCW because, I mean, let's be honest, the writing team was sent there to sabotage them. And if it wasn't, then they just hired really wrong people. They go back and watch the Steiner brothers. Go back and watch early Scott Steiner on his own. There is a reason why the WWF in 92 and 93 thought about bringing him in and making him their world champ.
Yeah.
There is an absolute reason to it. Does he get a little cuckoo? Absolutely. But we were at the Garden when he debuted, and that place erupted.
Second biggest pop of the night. Well, no, third. That was a night of... We're going to cover that in a later show, for sure.
It was a night of pops.
That was a night of huge pops. That was probably one of the hottest crowds I've ever been a part of. And he had one of them. He definitely had one of them. That place went nuts. So, like I said, I want to look back and we can laugh about his promos. We can laugh about some of the stuff he's done. But going back and looking at some Scott Steiner matches, we just watched one while we were eating dinner tonight. Him against Test. He looked good.
And he made Test look decent.
Yeah, and this is in 2003. This is 3 years later. And he's doing stuff like that. And you look back at their match against what was the face off the top of my head, the Head Shrinkers at WrestleMania 9.
Yep.
You know, they were so good.
Go back and watch the Steiners against Doom. Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. Yeah. Man, those were great matches. And again, the people that love the high spots, you'll see some used in the right way with storytelling. And I'll be honest, if you don't like storytelling in your wrestling, and you don't like selling, then you don't like wrestling. And that's just real.
It's just the way it is. I mean, I'm glad we were able to kind of dial back, totally. Sure, we're crapping on some of the matches here, but there's some deep-rooted discussion within this pay-per-view, and I'm glad that we were able to find some things and find some good talking points to work on throughout this shit-tastic card that we're trudging our way through. So the next match on the card would be a retirement match. Actually, there was two stipulations in this match. It was between Hulk Hogan and Billy Kidman. If Hogan lost, he would retire from wrestling. And if Hogan beat Kidman, he would have a future shot at the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Hogan would win the match at just under 12 minutes, excuse me. He had his real-life shoot nephew, Horace Hogan, as the guest referee. But he was supposed to be the gimmick referee that was on the side of Kidman and the New Blood. But that didn't work out well for Kidman, as Horace would help his uncle win and count the 3 count for Hulk Hogan in this match. So Hogan working as Hollywood Hogan as a babyface in this spot was a little weird for me. So let's break this down a little bit. First off, let's go Billy Kidman.
Hold on.
Holding.
And speaking of Hulk Hogan, we have breaking news.
Is he back?
Hulk Hogan has blocked Conrad Thompson on Twitter. And there is a new shirt coming out. Blocked Mania. It is just a sad day.
That is a sad day.
When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside.
I hurt inside.
That's quote by Thompson.
Conrad,
we would rather be drinking with you right now, my friend, but we have work to do.
We do have work to do.
So Billy Kidman. He brought us a lot of great things to the business.
Tori Wilson.
Thank you for taking everything he did.
Should have made fun of me earlier, dick.
What you take? I'm going to go with, how about high spots for 1,000? 450 splash.
450? That was Shooting Star was his move.
Yeah, it's the same deal. It was the Shooting Star press. But no, Kidman could work.
I liked him. I liked him in the Flock. I liked him.
I liked Flock Kidman way better than New Blood Kidman.
Yeah.
But then again, there's nothing about the New Blood that I enjoyed. Kidman could work. Kidman could work. And it's very obvious why he has a role with the WWE today as an agent. Because he was... Forget this match. This match aside. Mm-hmm. It was believable that a smaller guy could have great matches when it was Kidman. He could work. Did they over push him here? Yep.
Yeah, a little bit outside of his comfort zone.
I mean, Kidman should never be in a number one contenders match for the WCW Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I mean, this match here, and just put aside for a second, is like, it just wasn't a believable spot for him. Even like with aging Hogan, it just was. He looked like he was beating up a little kid, and no pun intended. Like, it just really looked like he was beating up a child the entire match. I mean, but like on a positive note, like as we hark back to a lot on the shows that have been watching 2002, and if you guys think that and I'll bring this to today. If you guys think that you're getting this great cruiserweight action nowadays with 205 Live and all the talent they have on Raw, that's all well and good. Go watch a Kidman Tajiri match from Backlash 2002. You'll see what cruiserweight wrestling.
And go back further. Go to the WCW and watch and not the cruiserweight title match here, but go back and watch legit WCW cruiserweight matches to see what it was.
And I just bring that up because I just watched it recently, and it just really stood out for me on that card. But I mean, this match this is on a lot of holes. Kidman tried to DDT Hogan on the chair, completely missed it. I don't know whose fault it is. I don't know the ins and outs of doing spots and things like that. But it just looked bad, and it was on the wrong side of the camera too, so you saw it look bad. I mean, what were they trying for here? Were they trying to build Kidman or just feed somebody to Hogan? Like, what? I just don't get it.
I think it was more putting Kidman over.
Yeah.
And, I mean, because before this, Kidman had a win over Hogan.
Yeah. It's true.
And that's always been any Hogan fan's go-to argument, that Hogan did have times when he would put other people over, and it always went back to Hogan put over Kidman. And it's like, okay, I get it. He did. But, I mean, let's dissect the problems here. Hulk Hogan needed brass knucks to beat Billy Kidman.
And a low blow from Torrie Wilson.
And didn't even bother giving the leg drop.
That was the worst part. I spent a lot of this match, and if you looked at my face, I don't know if you caught my face, but I just felt like I had a face on that. I was like I just ate a lemon the entire time for this 11 minutes.
I had to watch it twice because I had already done my prep work, and you, on the other hand, dropped the ball, brother.
I had a busy week. Leave me alone. All right, any final thoughts on the first retirement match? Because we have the next one coming up.
Why?
Another why. This one is this was a little bit less of a why. We get where they were shooting for here, but it just failed miserably. We had the Battle of the Flairs. We had Ric Flair against his son David Flair in a retirement match. And if David had beat Ric, he would have had to retire from wrestling forever. This match just goes over 10 minutes with Ric Flair winning and not having to retire. They bring his whole family out. There's the late Reed Flair there as a young man. You have Ashley Flair, who everyone knows nowadays as
Charlotte.
And then their oldest daughter as well. And whatever wife number
3?
Sure. Honestly, you want to know what bothered me most about this match?
And then the bell rang?
No, worse than that.
The entrance?
Mm-mm.
Daphne?
No. David
Flair's bleach blonde hair?
Below that. His...
Whoa!
Stop.
What are you doing?
Stop it!
Brother!
God, I hate you so much. I didn't mean anything like that. I said directly below that he wrestled in jeans and a t-shirt. It really bothered me.
And the show is completely devolved, folks. I'm sorry.
It just turned into my worst nightmare. Much like this match.
I had meticulous notes for this one.
Was it say why again?
Why? And then poor David.
Yeah, I mean, just can't. I don't know. I don't have words for this match.
So
I really don't.
There is no one in a more impossible spot in WCW in 2000 than David Flair. He probably, on one side, is excited he gets to work with his dad and he gets to make a whole lot of money. But he could be the second greatest worker of all time. And he's still always only going to be Ric Flair's son.
And it's unfortunate here, too, is his age. He was only 21, 22?
I don't even think he was 21. I think he was 19 or 20.
So, it's just, you feel bad for him to a point. It's cool that he got to wrestle his father, and his father's one of the greatest of all time, but it's just hard to watch this match, because it's not very good. It's just, chop after chop after chop.
Imagine being chopped by your dad.
No.
That would be amazing. For those of you that do not know Greg's dad...
Way to break kayfabe, dick.
For those of you who do not know Dad... he is an English teacher that taught math and English. And... on top of that,
my dad is a sweet man.
He's a great baseball coach. But the least intimidating human being I've ever met in my life.
Let me tell you a story about my dad. And this is a story that our buddies Vin and Phil of the Three Drinks In podcast, they do a nice job over there. Their father used to tell this story before he passed away of why he respected my father. As you brought up my dad. As you brought up Little League, there was one time during a Little League game where, we're like young kids, 7, 8 years old, and there's two fathers arguing on the field, giant men arguing on the field over a baseball game.
They're 5'6".
Stop it. My dad's not short. Not that short. Yeah, he is, but whatever. And my dad got in between both of these guys and screamed at them.
Time to make the donuts.
I'm glad you crack yourself up. I hope you fall. I may have to call an ambulance. He's laughing too hard, everybody. I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to tell the story anymore.
Continue your story.
Now I'm done now.
It's heart-wrenching and everybody's waiting for the punchline.
There's no punchline. It sucks.
No. Please finish the story.
Now I'm mad at you.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. But you're just mean to me tonight, and I don't like it. So you want to light some things on fire?
Not yet.
This last match.
No, I want you to tell the rest of the story.
Nothing. He broke up a fight between two giant guys and just yelled at them and totally, treated like two grown men that were acting like children in public. And he always respected him for that. So, yeah, my dad's a cool dude. He's funny. Doesn't understand what we do with this.
No.
Does not get it. He just never computed with him.
But in fairness, your dad taught English, but couldn't understand the idea of the eatery.
Yeah. Well,
so
that's a story for another day.
Oh yeah.
So We want to move on from this Ric Flair, David Flair matchup.
Oh, let's light some things on fire.
All right, next up in the penultimate match of the night, thank God, is a Human Torch match, which would pit Sting against Vampiro. And Vampiro would win by lighting somebody that wasn't Sting on fire at just over 7 minutes. I thought it was nice that both guys wore shirts just in case of fire, which was nice safety. Safety first. My favorite part of the match, though, was Mark Madden trying to convince us that the silence in the arena was because everyone was just holding their breath because they knew someone was going to get lit on fire. Not because this match was shit-tastic. And everybody just wanted to go home at this point.
For those of you who have not had the honor and privilege to watch this clusterfuck that is, I would like to point out that the flame, the torch, if you will, was 40 feet high over the entrance ramp. Because Sting put it up there because apparently Vampiro is scared of heights. Also because the cameraman could not get up there and show that it wasn't Sting anymore. But first Vampiro goes up. And then Sting follows him. I'm just saying, if I don't follow you up, you can't light me on fire. And therefore, while I may not win, I will not lose either, and more importantly, shall remain uninflamed.
Logic has no place here in WCW 2000. Because where else were they going to hide this stuntman in Sting paint?
Or, my favorite part of the night.
Okay.
Is when they continue to spray Sting.
Hang on a second, before you get to that. This legitimately looks like, just Google it, watch it on YouTube. It looks like one of those like stunt shows at Disney World where a guy's on fire and he just kind of falls off something and lands into a perfectly comfortable cushion.
Crash pad, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's what it looks like. And that's exactly what it was.
And then they spray him for the next 3 minutes with a fire extinguisher.
If that was a real fire extinguisher, it literally would have killed them.
And Tony Schiavone, I love Tony Schiavone, but this one just, they are spraying him to keep him cool. They are spraying him with a toxic chemical to keep him cool. They are spraying a fire extinguisher on a man who has a towel over his face, even though his back was set on fire.
Well, you couldn't see his face through the face paint. So you could tell it was the Disney stuntman.
Brother, this is why WCW is going out of business.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you this question. Is there a better metaphorical, symbolic gesture of how WCW was, how bad WCW was at this point when they literally lit Sting on fire and our childhoods?
New Blood Rising.
Okay. We'll cover that one day. So our main event of the evening is for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and it would pit Kevin Nash against Jeff Jarrett, and Jeff Jarrett was the champion at the time. He would win the match and retain the WCW title in over 17 minutes. At this point, I had really just checked out of this entire show. I mean, there's so much going on with Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff, and now then everybody, all the new blood, come out and try and take on Kevin Nash. And then finally, they had teased Goldberg coming out the entire night. They showed the Goldberg monster truck. They had said that he was arriving. He finally shows up in a vest and no shirt, because, that's how normal people walk around. And we see the Goldberg heel turn. but it was the shits.
So, what happened even a little bit before this, and we skipped right over it because it's more pure wrestle crap, but very much WCW, is WCW teased this big surprise.
Oh, yeah. See? Didn't happen. So it was,
and then Eric Bischoff says to the intellectually challenged but busty blonde announcer that the surprise is that there's no surprise. God, that's so WCW. And then, fast forward, the surprise is that Goldberg's going to turn and join the New Blood. Which, I mean, it makes sense, because he's not part of the Millionaires Club. And therefore, he would be part of the New Blood. And God, thank God it's over. And then you got Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff coming out and hugging Goldberg. And, ugh.
Just what a wonderful way to end the night. Just with this weird imagery of a bad guy Goldberg with embracing Bischoff and Russo. Let's talk about a couple things here. Because we haven't really mentioned him a lot on our show. Kevin Nash. What? You gotta put him in that group of big men. Now he's never close to Undertaker level of things there, but like, is his career as, because it's kind of been a joke now, a little bit when people look back and they crap on his title run as Diesel, whatever. Where's Kevin Nash for you? Because I never thought he was that bad.
I think he's overrated.
Okay.
I do. I think the move of him jumping ship actually may have helped the WWF.
That's an arguable point, but no, yeah, of course. I mean,
I think it was addition by subtraction. I don't. What did he really bring to WCW other than his? And again, it's going by everything you read back then, but I mean, he was the booker that booked himself to be champ.
Yeah. The
finger poke of doom. You know, with Hogan beating him with a finger poke. Like, it's just the wrestle craptacular stuff that came out of it. I guess I am not an NWO guy. I never was an NWO guy. I think the angle was great, but it got way overblown. But I think Scott Hall's the better of the two of them.
Of course.
If Scott Hall doesn't tangle with his demons, I think everybody knows that Scott Hall is the better of the two of them.
Because you can name so many more classic Hall matches than you can Nash matches.
There are no classic Nash matches.
That was the point I was trying to make.
Like, there are none.
Yeah.
There are serviceable matches, and sure, as a big man, he's okay. But no, I think people look at Kevin Nash as this great guy. I don't think he's a punchline, but I don't think he's a stud either.
It's all fair points. And so obviously at this point, as we're wrapping up this show, and we'll get our plugs in a minute. You know, let's talk about. I mean, obviously, if you haven't figured out yet, our fans out there, that what drew us to do these two shows, that it was really like two sides of a spectrum. Because the 88 WCW, you're coming out, by the end of the year, Ted Turner had bought the company and then it took off. But you still had loads of talent. This card was twice as long as the 1988 card. 5 matches to 10. And it was so much of a different time. But it was a time we can look back on. If you look back on the 88 show, and there's really some good stuff in there. And you look back on this show, and it's really hard to find anything positive. And it hurts, and it sucks, because a lot of those guys on this card were guys I could say are some of my favorites of all time, and it's just didn't work. Didn't work at all. And it's depressing to go back and see and just kind of relive this dark time for being a WCW fan. So, any final thoughts before we...
Final thoughts. Following this match, following this event, you can start writing the eulogy of WCW. And thus ending my childhood. And it's disappointing to me. Because, truthfully, I love WCW. And I love the creativity and the characters of the 80s and the early 90s. And I just watched it collapse with this card. And I apologize to anyone that thought it would be a good idea to go back and watch. And follow along with us on this craptacular journey. I would rather run backwards on a treadmill on a steep incline in a thong than have to watch this event again.
That's fair. Minus the thong.
What? Dude, just stop talking.
I go to bed yet?
God,
right.
Dude, what is wrong with you? I didn't even start that one.
I think it's the show. Just put me in a weird mood.
Brother.
Not our podcast, but I think just watching Great American Bash 2000. All right. So let's close this. Let's close this puppy out. Thank God, and move on to bigger and better things. So let's get our plugs out of the way, and then we'll preview what we're working on next, which is a big project, which is kind of why we're doing 2 shows back to back. First of all, you can find the show and myself on Twitter at DDT Archives. You can find the Courageous One on Twitter at
The Courageous_1.
All right. You can email the show with any questions, comments, or show ideas. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your feedback. You can email the show ddtarchives@gmail.com.
You can follow the Tapped Out Network at Tapped Out Pod. You can email the Tapped Out Wrestling Network at tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com with any questions, concerns, information, concern over Greg's whatever.
If you want to complain about us watching the show, you can go right ahead.
If you enjoy quality wrestling, we encourage you to go and watch the Fight app. It is a great rabbit hole of wrestling and entertainment.
Yeah. Combat sports, it's a great app. It really is. It's a lot of fun. You can catch our friends over at Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling. You can catch Ring of Honor. If you don't get it in your town, you can watch all the Ring of Honor TV shows on there, pay-per-views and whatnot.
And great shoot interviews. Also, if you are a person that likes to buy things on Amazon, please go to the Tapped Out website, tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com, and click on the Amazon link. It's not going to cost you anything else. It just contributes to the cause, and we greatly appreciate our supporters using that link to order all the whatever it is that you order on Amazon. And I hope that it's a great story.
All right. So we're going to wrap up this puppy. On our next episode, the thing we're working on, what?
What we're working on next is simply going to blow everyone's minds but I don't want to tease it for a week. I just want you to see it, live it, and love it. Because I promise you, unlike this craptacular podcast today on a craptacular event, well, amazing podcast on a craptacular event.
This is actually kind of funny.
With some unfortunate homoerotic tendencies by my co-host. Next week's episode will blow your minds with the amount of research and creativity that went into it. It will not be a pay-per-view show. I promise you that.
Alright. Catch you next time, kids. Thanks for listening.
Have a good one, folks.